The wheels are turning, this time taking us into the depths of the dark side. Season 3 of the fantasy action drama series Wheel of Time is now streaming on Amazon Prime Video. And today, we are going to plunge into the Dark One and explore the consummate evil, whose shadow is stirring the pot as we speak. The Dark One is the quintessential villain of the Amazon series in the Robert Jordan books, and the day that his presence explodes through the ever-weakening seal that holds him in the series is not that far. In this video, we will explore everything about him, how he came to power, and what caused his subjugation, as well as his reprisal in the armies he commands, and just about everything in the middle through the Wheel of Time lore. We will also talk about when the Dark One will physically show up in the TV series. So, without any further ado, let's hit it. Before we go on, we have a teeny tiny request. Please support us by subscribing. It's a small click for you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you.
Dark One has begun to use the ways to move his armies.
I could have sworn I just saw.
Who is the Dark One? Season 3 of The Wheel of Time is now up and running on Amazon Prime. The series is an adaptation of the best-selling fantasy book series by Robert Jordan, which he wrote over 2 decades. For all its sprawling lore and vivid magic of channeling, there is only one figure that provides the narrative, with the element of spooky mystery, the Dark One. The Dark One is the penultimate villain in the Wheel of Time, akin to the Dark Lord in J.R.R. Tolkien's works, which have inspired much of the fantasy genre, including Wheel of Time. The Dark One is driven to bring about the end of the natural world as people know it, spreading his foul, savage armies throughout the living landscape. If he were to gain enough strength and freedom to do his will, he would destroy the world this very day. He wishes to break the Wheel of Time, which weaves the entirety of existence, and remake the world in his image. The fans of the show have been teased with the Dark One's appearance many times over the past 2 seasons, but it always turns out that it was someone else, put out there to confuse the dragon and the followers of the light. Was it ever truly the Dark One in Rand's dreams in Season 1? Have we ever peeped the Dark One in the show yet? Or is it just his powerful servants playing tricks on the good guys all the time? We have got the entire lowdown for you in this video. But first, let us go back in time and see what the Dark One was getting up to when he wasn't trapped in the eye of the world by the Aes Sedai.
Run.
You are the dragon.
Dark One in the times gone by, in the peaceful eon called the Age of Legends, which is 3,000 years before the events of the Amazon series, the Dark One got to work. He began to mess with the patterns spun by the Wheel of Time. He brought imbalance everywhere in the form of violence and chaos. The mayhem spread by his shadow threatened to annihilate all existence. The shadow of the Dark One refers to all his agents and him, together. In the dark cloud they spread over the world. They are the dark side, if you will. Under his shadow, the Dark One commands shadow spawns, such as the Trollocs and Fades, the Chosen, and other humans called Dark Friends. Trollocs are an experimental crossbreed of humans and animals, each having different traits from the animals that were used to create them. Fades are eyeless, toothy leaders of the Trolloc hordes, more intelligent as compared to the vicious crossbred creatures they command. The Chosen, known to the world as the Forsaken, are a group of channelers, 13 in all, that have sworn their oaths to the Dark One in exchange for immortality. They have been bestowed with powers to do their master's bidding, including physical and supernatural powers, dreamwalking, creating illusions, and mind tricks, among others. Dark Friends are the other humans that have aligned with the Dark One. One such faction is the Black Aja, Liandrin, who has taken a central role in Season 2, proving to be the greatest threat to the Light followers, is a Black Aja. To battle the immense shadow that was spreading over the living from the terrible lands of Blight and reinstate balance in the world, there rose a dragon, Luz Theron Telamon. The leader of the Aes Sedai men was the dragon in the Age of Legends. His friend, Ishamael, who also wielded great power, went bad. He had come to believe in the shadow and the Dark One, the greatest of the Forsaken. Ishamael was the one who believed that the Dark One could only break the wheel if the dragon could be enticed into joining with him, and Ishamael emphatically tried for this with Rand, encroaching on his dreams in the first season of the Wheel of Time TV series. Another prominent Forsaken in the Dark One's corner is Lanfear. Lanfear was in love with the dragon, Luz Theron, but when he married another, Lanfear took the Dark Oaths. In fact, she is still passionately hung up on the dragon, summoning Rand into dreams with her. In the current season of Wheel of Time, in the Age of Legends, a great battle was fought between the Dark and the Light armies, in which the dragon and his Aes Sedai captured Ishmael and the other Forsaken, and trapped them in seals at the Eye of the World. But the Dark One's defeat did not define his future. When the dragon and his Aes Sedai trapped the Dark One and imprisoned him, he sullied the One Power. The male half of the One Power became corrupted, causing all the men who channeled to go insane. All hell broke loose. The world began to crumble, and the civilization collapsed. Such was the power that the Dark One could manifest even from his imprisonment. Imagine what he could do if those weakening seals that hold him finally splintered. This is the eventuality Wheel of Time is building up to. Dark One's motive in the lore. I really believed that it was the Dark One that confronted Rand in the first season's finale. That was before the Dark Man encasing fire under his skin turned into Ishmael. This event is consistent with the source material, which also showed the entity enticing Rand near the Eye of the World, not to be the Dark One, but Ishmael. To me though, that image of the Dark Man with fire raging on in his insides feels quite like what the ultimate evil may look like. Could it be that the Dark One was channeling himself through Ishmael for a brief moment there? Or was Ishmael actually impersonating him? Do tell me what you think happened there, guys. I would love to get some deep takes on this one. In the books, the Dark One is called Shaitan, which means evil in Arabic, coming from the word Satan in Hebrew. Most cultures around the world use some form of these names to denote evil. But in Wheel of Time, no one calls the Dark One by his real name. Instead, he goes by a bunch of epithets, different for all the different clans, such as Light Eater, Soulbinder, Balsamon, Leafblighter, Father of Lies, and so on. The TV series has been largely faithful to the books in positioning the Dark One as the embodiment of chaos and the destroyer of order. There is also a foreboding sense of destruction of everything beautiful and good when we think about the Dark One and his shadow. While his goal with the breaking of the wheel is not fully clear, whether he wants to remake the world in his image or just destroy it and revel in the ultimate imbalance and paradox abound, the one thing that is certain is that the Dark One wishes to control everything. While describing his plans to Rand, he once said that at the very end, there is only me. The Dark One appears to be a force of utter destruction, incapable of calling upon his own free will to anything that divulges from his evil calling. It is like a massive asteroid on a collision course, with no inner ability, positive emotion, or energy to stop its own momentum. To rebuild the world in his own image would mean he wishes to erect a world with people completely devoid of positive emotions, such as empathy, kindness, or compassion, just like himself. Because of the Dark One's innately evil nature and predilection to work in the exact same way every time, he could not win the fight between good and evil unless some prominent elements of the good side were with him. This is why we see Rand feel the great pull towards a seductive darkness every time he tries to channel. We have seen him discuss this dreadful conundrum with Moraine in the running season when they were on their way to the Aiel Waste. That pull is the work of the shadow. Of course, the male half of the One Power is corrupted, which could be another reason for Rand's woes. But the dragon is different. His mind is strong, as is the power he wields, unlike the other light followers. This is what makes him the decisive enemy of the Dark One, and ironically, also the one guy the Dark One wishes to conquer more than anything else. We know that the Dark One's powers extend beyond physical supremacy and the gifts of channeling energy. He can warp reality and trap people into nightmares. He can also distort people's perceptions when they get closer to his trapping pit. This is because the area around his seal has weakened, and the Dark One's influence is now able to touch the pattern to some extent. The Dark One in the current timeline. In the TV series right now, we are in the Third Age. It's been a minute since the Dark One was sealed inside the Eye of the World, with the toxic vines-infested forest, the Blight, snaking out of his unwilling lair. But now, the Dark One is able to affect the world and his shadow continues to cause trouble. Trollocs and Dark Friends have hunted down people and tried to weaken the power of the White Tower. In Season 1, we witnessed the Shadow Spawns haunt the two rivers because of the prophecy of the Savior Dragon. Looking for the 5, ta'veren. Moraine is able to retrieve 4 of them. Mat Cauthon, Rand al'Thor, Perrin, Ibarra, and Egwene Vir. The 4 ta'verens begin to see a man with a furious fire within that is visible through its orifices in their dreams. Siawan, the reigning Amirlan seat. 2, dreamt of the Dark One. Now, at the end of Season 1, Rand and Moraine are navigating the Blight when the Burning Man of Rand's nightmares manifests in his dream again. But this manifestation soon turns into Ishmael. It was Ishmael all along, the strongest of the Forsaken, who held the Dark One's trust like none other. Rand is swirled into an imaging created by Ishmael, where he tries to tempt Rand into skipping the fence over to the dark side. Rand blasts Ishmael into what he thought was his prison, but instead frees him. Ishmael works towards the Dark One's vision through Season 2 and is destroyed by the Rand at the end of it. But we do not get another glimpse at the Dark One himself. Of course, Ishmael and Lanfear continue to do their good work. In Season 3, we have seen Lanfear getting inside Rand's head, but it really feels as though it is out of her long-standing obsession with the dragon. She even mentions a way to destroy the Dark One to Rand when they meet in a dream. The TV show will explore the infected and abstract power of the Dark One more by the way of his shadows, especially in how they try to conquer Rand in Season 3. But Rand, being the Dark One's greatest nemesis, will also rise in stature and power to combat the Dark One, as Rand makes towards his destiny, retrieving the Callandor, and attempts to use the One power, along with the Dark One's true power, against the Dark One. We will head towards the climax we have all been waiting for. When will that come to pass in the Amazon Prime series, though? Let us take a look at when the show's creative team plans to oblige us. Next, will the Dark One appear in Season 3? Of course, the Dark One will break out of his incarceration, which is getting flimsier by the day. Good stories do not come to a conclusion without the greatest villain being an active part of the dark side, do they? Rafe Judkins, the showrunner of The Wheel of Time, spoke about his plans for the show in an interview, stating that he could see the show running for 6 or 7 seasons, as the Dark One's shenanigans are likely to make for the biggest onslaught on Rand and the light side. We can safely say he will come out in a magnificent physical form in the final season of the show. So, if things go Judkins' way, we can expect to wait a little longer before we get to see the Dark One on active duty. But Judkins also pitched in that his creative team is prepared to cut things short if they need to. He said this owing to the fact that Amazon Prime has yet to give a green signal for the 4th season of Wheel of Time. In fact, given the viewership woes of the show, it is a very real possibility that Wheel of Time may not live to see another season. If that is the case, Judkins will have to wrap up the story in Season 3 itself, and the Dark One will reprise sooner than we thought. Marvelous verdict. Wheel of Time has elaborate lore and so many likable characters that as the season progresses and the subplots gather pace, the viewership should mount. The concept of the Wheel of Time closely resembles the ideas from ancient Asian philosophies and myths, the infinite Wheel of Time turning with the many births and rebirths, and the Dark One being a force of nature feels right out of ancient Indian philosophies. And the concept of a dragon fighting to defeat evil comes from Chinese mythology. The role of the dragon as a positive, heroic creature is historically more prevalent in Asian stories than in classic Western ones. In Kung Fu symbolism, a dragon represents birth, life, and the heavens, the good half of the circle of life. In fact, the fire dragon that Moraine shot up to Rand at the end of Season 2 even looked much more like a serpentine Chinese dragon than your regular large-winged Western. The core plot of Wheel of Time is quite akin to J.R.R. Tolkien's works. The strife the good guys must suffer at the savage, animalistic armies of the Dark One, spreading the shadow and chaos, and the prophecy of a hero that will hang the evil also sounds much too familiar, doesn't it? But even if the show does not boast the most novel storyline out there, I always look forward to seeing how our young heroes, Moraine and Lan, are doing against the Forsaken and the Liandrin menace. And that is a credit to the actors and actresses who have been able to bring Jordan's word to life in the most charming way. That is not to say there aren't some glitches in the production. Many have noticed the scene cut errors here and there, but there haven't been any big slips really. They haven't bothered me all that much. What the show is doing really well now, just as the books did in the past, is putting in enough great characters that are easy to root for and pop in plenty of tense moments to make it a charming saga to get behind. Alright, so that's it from us for now, but we can't wait to hear your thoughts on the Wheel of Time, so do get busy in the comments. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to us if you haven't already. We'll see you in the next one. Bye now.